Hey guys, how's it going? Here we have another live hand I played at the 2-5 tables, and I was pretty new at the table, so I don't have a ton of information. I only realized that the small blind was fairly bad post flop. He was clearly not that experienced, and that's about it. And as you can see, we have aces in the big blind. Not a bad hand, I'd say. So let's see what happened.
Yep. So obviously, only thing we can do is raise. What do you think about sizing?
Yeah, we are a bit deeper than usual, so we could even go a little bit bigger, but yeah, I don't mind 70, 80, something between those lines, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I think, if we were 100 big blinds deep, we'd probably want to go, 5 or 6x. So yeah, I think between the 70, 80, something like that. I mean, you could probably go with the unknown bad player. You might even go a little bit bigger because he's going to be calling pretty wide. And it's not necessarily the best spot to be going like three-way, even though we have aces. Obviously, we'd rather go heads up. So I think as long as you make it more than 60 or 70, I think making it 60 is definitely a mistake because then both players are going to be really likely to call. And you're obviously three betting a really polarized range here. So yeah, you want to go pretty big for sure.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely don't want to play all the time aces three-handed out of position against one player.
So unknown bad player calls, so obviously great spot. It's like exactly what you want, right? Be in position with the bad player. Now, pretty good flop rate. I mean, we assume this doesn't really hit his range too well. He could have some sets, but he shouldn't have any two pairs. So obviously we're feeling pretty good with our hand here. And he actually leads out. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. Because most bad players will not lead all the time, and sometimes when they lead, they also have a bunch of middling type hands. I think so. I think he can lead all kinds of hands like 10x, 9s, 8s, 7s, some bluffs like king queen, king jack, whatever you see, all the fancy stuff. Sometimes maybe a gut shot that we block with two aces like ace 5, ace deuce, maybe in another suit. Important here, I think, is that we block a lot of flush draws because we have the ace and clubs in our hand. So this decreases the chance that our opponent has a flush draw. And yeah, like I mentioned, I think his range is fairly weak, fairly vulnerable, at least when I play against bad unknown. Or what do you think most players would lead here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I think a lot of 10x. I think a lot of players just lead top pairs. Even weaker top pairs, they just don't really know what to do. I mean, I think less likely in a 3-bet pot, single raise pot. Obviously, people do that a ton, right? They just lead top pair and mid pair. 3-bet pot, they're a little bit tighter, but I think he's just gonna have a lot of 10x, maybe some draws, but as you say, you block them. So I think versus that range, we mainly just want to be calling. I mean, I don't think raising would be the worst, but you kind of isolate yourself. You don't necessarily want to give off the strength of your hand right away here. So I think calling and just keeping his range as wide as possible, because he could just have 7s or 8s sometimes too, right? You never know with these players. So
yeah, and we keep his bluffs also in there. I think with a hand that is way more vulnerable, like jacks or ace 10 suited, I would be definitely a little bit more inclined to raise, especially when I know his leading range can be wide and he does not like to fold. But here against an unknown, we are still fairly deep, nearly 300 bigs when the hand started. So yeah, we definitely want to proceed with a little bit of caution.
Yeah, for sure. So you do call, which I definitely like, and then turn. I mean, basically total brick, right? Obviously 8s improve and 10-8 suited, but it's just a few combos, so we can assume it's fairly bricky. And he bets again, pretty big. I mean, was it 2/3? So pretty healthy bet again. It kind of looks like he's setting up near riverside shove, right, with this line, because if you call, basically it's going to be about a pot behind.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I think his range is definitely a little bit more polarized. I don't think he's leading 7s or king jack most of the time. Because when I call the flop, I need to have something, right? I do not call king queen or something like this or ace jack when he leads big on the flop. So I think he's not leading 7s, he's not leading 9s. So I think now he has 10x most of the time, sometimes 3s, sometimes 4s, sometimes a flush draw. but again, we block flush draws, and I still think when he is a bad player, he can still have hands like 10, 9, sometimes definitely king 10, queen 10, jack 10, and ace 10. But that's mainly about it. Or do you think he can lead other hands on the turn?
No, I think it's a pretty good summation. Yep, I definitely agree. A lot of 10x. Still, like he could have like jacks and queens for sure. Just because a lot of these weaker players they don't 3-bet, so sometimes they show up with like even like kings. Sometimes people show up with crazy stuff, but I think calling is definitely the right play here. I think when you jam, like I think if you raise, basically jams your only option. It doesn't really make sense to raise like 560 and then be left with like a tiny bet on the river. So I think jamming is the only size if you raise, and I think it's not the worst, but I think it just kind of it allows them to fold. Even a bad player is going to be able to fold hands like maybe ace 10 sometimes, right, when you jam. So I think just calling is going to be better here.
Yeah, I think when we know our opponent is weaker post flop and he does not like to fold, so he's never folding a 10, then I think value shoving is way better. Because on the river we super often see a jack, queen, king, ace, a club, and now our opponent is scared, and we're also scared a little bit when the river is a club. So we don't want to pile all the money in. And on the turn, like we already mentioned, we have the best hand, the vast majority of the time. So really don't mind getting all the money in. The only problem is that we create a ton of fold equity by just ripping turn. So like you mentioned, in this regard, I would prefer calling turn with aces.
Yeah, for sure. Which is what you do. Good spot. So river's like, it's probably the best river in the deck, basically.
Yeah.
So we're feeling pretty good now. Basically hoping he shoves here. I mean, we're obviously never folding if he shoves, but yeah. He actually goes ahead and bets 300, which is pretty weird. I don't know. Like I expect people, if they have a nutted hand here, just to jam. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't jam. So
absolutely,
this is definitely a strange sizing by him. And then obviously we're never folding. What do you think between jamming or calling here?
Yeah, like you mentioned, when he is not jamming, I don't think he has most nutted hands. And even when he has nutted hands, there are not a lot of nutted hands left, right? Because it's only pocket threes, pocket fours, one combination. And I don't think pocket tens is always leading flop, right? So I think he still has enough 10x. And then we always have a super profitable value shove, so I get it in for 500 more.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely like the jam here. I think it'd actually be a pretty big mistake just to call here, which I think it's easy to do, right? If you're kind of in a defensive mode and then you don't really pay attention to the bet size on the river, it's easy to be like, okay, I'm never going to fold, but I just call, right? And then you think after, wait a minute, thinking about sizing.
Yeah, the pot is already huge, right?
Yeah, so it's not much else. And he's never going to fold like a 10 or anything. He can definitely have 10x, jacks, queens, like he's just not going to fold given his price. So definitely a good spot just to get the money in. What you do, calls, and unfortunately he had threes, which is, I don't know. I mean, that's just really weird and random. So I wouldn't let it affect my decision at all. I think he definitely played the hand really well. And it's just, when he shows up with that, he's losing a ton of value by not showing that river. It's just ridiculous, right?
Because yeah, absolutely. I mean, I call it anything with most hands or with most strong hands, I arrive on the river.
Yeah.
So, and I think the biggest problem is most people are not value shoving the river. So he's losing a ton. And like you mentioned, value shoving river against weaker ranges is so important. People are super, super happy at showdown that they can collect the pot, turn the cards over, and they are not even thinking about value shoving. And you see that when they toss in the ship in like 2 seconds, right? Okay, he has never thought about value shoving. But of course, when the estimated range from your opponent is fairly weak and you have a value shove, well, then you should do it, because otherwise you leave money on the table when you think your opponent bets 10x and calls off with 10x often enough. And this is a super profitable shove, and we have over 100 big blinds behind, right? We are playing 3-5. So this is not like we're leaving $20 on the table. It's over $500 we can gather on the rivers. So think about villain's range, and when you think this is profitable, just go for it. And when you're wrong, think about the estimated ranges, and when you realize, okay, pocket threes are in this range, this is still a super profitable value shove, we still play this spot exactly the same the next time.
Yep, for sure. Good hand. as you say, it's like his value range is so narrow compared to, like, let's say he's got 3 combos of 3s, maybe, like, I mean, you could say he has all 3 combos of 8s, but he probably wouldn't have bet the flop, right? So, and then he could have some 10s, but realistically, it's like, you think his value range when he bet calls is probably like, the value range beats you maybe like, I don't know, like give him like 5 or 6 combos max, right? But then he can also, the thing of all the hands he can bet call with, like jacks alone, if you play it that way, is 6 combos, right? You add more 10x into there, maybe some queens. Like there's so many more hands that you beat.
Yeah, king 10 off.
That it's just, yeah, you really got to show there. So yeah, good spot. And yeah, I think that's a good spot to look at for sure. And just make sure you're getting max value. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it, guys. So we'll see you next time. Take care.
Take it easy.